So let's address the elephant in the room. Your email inbox.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax, HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs and Security First IT. And joining me, as always, is the lovely Donna Grindle of Cardin. Hello, Donna.
Hello, David.
Guess what we got coming up?
Okay, there's so many things. All of a sudden, my brain just shut down. It was overwhelmed.
Yeah, I know. You're like, what?
Which thing?
You know, my birthday.
No, you're most excited because the boy's coming home.
Yeah, by the time this comes out, he will have already been home. But yeah, as we're recording this on a Friday, he comes in on Monday. My oldest from the Air Force, he's over in South Korea, so he's coming home for a few weeks before he goes back over there and then gets shipped out to Japan next. So yeah, super excited about that.
Well, he's seeing the world. I'm sure it's a tad bit different to be in South Korea than it is Lancaster.
Yeah, you know, here's the funny part is on his flight schedule, he's leaving South Korea at 2:35 p.m. and he's getting in Charlotte at 2:36 p.m. It's going to take 1 minute to get there to here. But on his way back, it's taking like a day and a half.
Yeah, that's the way it works, right?
Yeah. So yeah, it was pretty funny when looking at the tickets and where he's supposed to be.
It's the simple things in life for you, isn't it?
I know. It
Okay.
Doesn't take much.
So we got big stuff.
Yes. So the bigger news for the listeners, because, you know, they probably don't care about my son coming home, but the bigger news for my listeners is the HIPAA boot camp.
We've locked it in.
We have got it locked in. We have the place, time. Everybody's going to be there. It's going to be awesome.
So we're doing a live one. The virtual experiment seemed to be okay, but you know, we'll gear up for another one of those maybe later in the year, but it's time to do a live one. So we said last week that we thought we had it, and we do. July 19th and 20th here live in Tucker, Georgia.
Yeehaw.
Yeah. And we're doing things basically just like we did the last time. But I think we added in a super early bird price. So if you sign up, and how do you get information and sign up, David?
You go to thehippahbootcamp.com or HIPAA, help me with HIPAA. I'm going to mess these things up every time. Help me with HIPAA.com/bootcamp. There's too many HIPAA things. Yeah, just go to thehippahbootcamp.com. I can remember that one.
Help me with HIPAA.com/bootcamp.
Yep.
Any of those things, just go there. You can get all the details and sign up. The super early bird pricing is through June 15th. So you got a couple of weeks from the time this comes out. And then early bird kicks in till July 8th. And then the late pricing.
Yeah.
Or, you know, last minute pricing starts after that. So from July 9th. So you definitely want to go check it out. The super early bird is $12.97. We did want to call that the worm because the early bird gets the worm. It was going to be the early bird.
Technically, you would be the worm.
Yeah, really. It's the worm, the early bird, and the angry bird.
There you go. The angry bird would be those
hungry bird
together.
Yeah. So the super early bird pricing, $12.97 per person. That includes your breakfast, your lunch, and 2 wonderful days with the Cardin team and David.
Why do I have to be separate? I thought I was part of the team.
Well, it's more fun to deliver it that way.
Oh, okay.
And there are discounts.
My 1099 doesn't say I'm part of the team, does
it? There are discounts if you're bringing more than one person. So if you're bringing several people, you get a 10% discount off the final total. which makes it kind of nice. The more you bring, the more you save. And so you get a really good deal if you bring multiple people on the super early bird pricing. Yay.
Right. So who should be coming to this thing?
Well, it's anybody that is responsible for supporting or managing a compliance program, a formal privacy and security program. Let's take it a step further than that, because it applies to more than just HIPAA in a lot of ways. But we cover the HIPAA privacy rule, the HIPAA security rule, and the breach notification rule. We teach you everything from how do you read the law when you need to, because when you're managing these things, you actually need to understand what they're referencing. And how do you do a risk analysis? We talk about password management and, the crazy nerdy stuff and all of those things all at the same time.
Right. Yeah. So we typically have, we usually have at least one or two IT companies that are there, learning, which is great.
Yep.
Then seems like we've always had at least one or two law firms that are there.
Yeah. Practice managers.
Yep.
Yeah. So it just depends on how you need to look at things. But yeah, we lawyers, practice managers, technical people, directors versus the people doing the work. It's support staff. We've had a wide variety of people. And so if you need to understand the management part of HIPAA, not what you just teach, the basics, those people that get the HIPAA training every year from the hospital for 30-minute video and they think they know everything about HIPAA. If you really want to know everything about HIPAA, come to this 2 full days of the fire hose of HIPAA being aimed right at you.
Yeah. We always hear, there's 2 things we hear. One is it's like drinking from a fire hose, and the other is this was so overwhelming, I don't know how to act.
Well, yeah, but more importantly is that I learned so many things that I had no idea I didn't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will say that when people leave here, even though it is like day one is kind of the overwhelming because it kind of hits them.
Yeah, usually we end up buying everybody a drink at the end.
I know. But usually by the time they leave, I mean, they even though they understand it's overwhelming, they also have a plan because we sit down and kind of go over that with them.
Yeah,
so
that's how the culmination of the whole thing is to give you a plan. And this quarter you're going to do this, and next quarter you're going to do this, and the next quarter you're going to do this. So you actually leave with an action plan based on what you've learned. And that's what we try to do that really makes it different, other than we just hear bleh.
Right. And the point of that too, to bring this up, is this is why we limit it to a few people. So if you want to get in, you need to purchase your tickets early because we can only take so many because we do spend one-on-one time with each person or organization to make sure that they have what they need when they leave.
Yeah, so we know the limit of organizations and the limit of people. We'll let you know when it's getting close, but you don't, like we said. Come on, y'all. It's a lot of fun. And all of you that have put your name on the list, you're going to get a special email. You should have already gotten it by the time this comes out. Bye.
Very good. All righty. Before we move on to our topic, which is digital spring cleaning.
Yes.
So where are you going to be, Carmen?
Consuela. So June 14th, so shortly after this comes out, I'm going to be in Dalton, Georgia, the North Georgia Medical Management Association, their seminar meeting. We're going to do a song and dance as I normally do and entertain them with why HIPAA is not something you do once a year. And then I'm running another live cybersecurity officer course for the Format approved folks. That's June 20th, 21st, 27th, 28th. It's webinar based, live webinar based. And there's a link. You can go to Format approved, become a healthcare cybersecurity officer. And the June dates are there. And if you use Grindle20, you get a 20% discount off your registration.
Awesome.
Yeah. So you know that you got it from me. But
If you use Sims 20, you'll pay full price.
But in that course, we actually talk about utilizing cybersecurity frameworks to manage security programs and make them formal and communicate them properly. It focuses on the NIST framework, and it will have both 1.0 and 1.1 information. We explain high trust and several other things. But the idea is to give you the groundwork you need to be able to understand how to utilize those frameworks and the things that you need to do.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sound like another fire hose.
It is. You know, anytime you talk to me, you ask me a question. So anyhow,
Awesome.
And I just did a thing yesterday with the Southeast Medical Partners group, and they were like, why didn't you talk about us on the podcast? Oh, okay. I forgot. All right. So anyhow, let's talk about digital spring cleaning.
All right. So that time of year that we love to clean up stuff. So not really. But it is good to put it on your calendar to look at how are you going to clean up digitally your digital life. And so we have some ways you can do that and things you can look at. So this ranges from everything from your risk analysis aspects of your hardware and software and inventory reports and how to do them right and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's like cleaning out your digital closet.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you don't sneeze as much from the dust. And you don't go, what's in the back? I don't want to know what's in the back. It hasn't been there. I haven't been in there in years. But you got the same problems. That there are dusty corners of your digital world, just like they are of your physical world. Mm-hmm. Unless, you're young and you just moved into your apartment, your house, and you have not put anything in the closet yet.
Yeah. No, I'm probably the worst on this stuff because the longer I use a computer, the more icons are on the desktop and the more bookmarks. I mean, it's just crazy. I dump everything on the desktop and then try to figure out what to do with it later.
Why? That drives me crazy.
Because if it's on the desktop, it kind of reminds me to find somewhere to put it.
See, I never even look at my desktop. I just don't look at it.
I do. I use it as my don't forget to put this where it needs to go spot. And
That's
unfortunately, sometimes
project management tools and to-do lists. And
I am not an organizer. I will admit it. My personality profile says I am not an organizer.
So then you really need to pay attention to this list.
I will pay attention to this list. Well, I have to see if I can organize time to be able to do the list.
Yeah. Well, the value of doing this is twofold. One is you're going to be more secure because you're going to shut down some potential security holes. That's part of it. And you're going to reduce your attack surface because we're going to get rid of things that could be used against you, get rid of data that you're having to back up and manage and protect if you don't need it anymore. So that's why we're going through the list. And you know, this is not something you could do it individually on your home computers. You need to do it at the office. We're going to, of course, focus on doing it at the office. And here's how you start. Pick a place.
Yeah.
I know my next big cleaning, I've got time set aside. I got an area of the house I'm going to clean. We take everything out of it and then put everything that I want to go back in and then stare at the big pile, Yeah. What am I going to do with this? Oh, I'll put it on David's desktop.
That's the way my wife cleans. She's like, I'm going to clean the, whatever office today. And I come home and I'm like, dude, there's a bigger mess than when I left.
Pardon our progress.
Yeah. That's exactly what she says. She's like, got to do this before I can do the other.
So, but under the HIPAA world, you, as part of your risk analysis and part of your risk management, you should have your hardware inventory and your software inventory reports.
Mm-hmm.
We have them, right? Everybody has them.
If not, because call your IT guy.
Well, because you're supposed to have them as part of your risk analysis and risk management. If you don't, refer to risk analysis and risk management sessions and come to the boot camp. But take those and pick the areas you're going to concentrate on, just like you would, picking which closet you're going to clean out or what chest or the other thing, the refrigerator. Oh my God, cleaning out the refrigerator is freezing. So
Dude, that's like every month for me.
By starting at that point, though, it's kind of like you get a twofer, for one, a BOGO. Because you're reviewing that list, which helps. You can put that down in I did my audits and follow-up activity, so I've reviewed that list. That's a great thing. And I'm going to go clean all this stuff out, so that gives you another area. But you pick that, and now you say, who am I going to get to help? So the nephew that's 6'6", 6'7" is moving in as he establishes himself in his new job in Atlanta. So all of the things that are tall are on our list of things to do. Can you reach that? Of course you can. Do that. But you put it on the list based on your team, and don't forget, call your IT vendor, David. What would you do if your clients called up and said, hey, we're doing our digital spring cleaning. Can you help? Would you say, good luck?
I'd say put a ticket in. We'll have a technician help you. I don't know. I'd probably be shocked.
But at the same time, happily so.
Yeah, it'd be like, wow, you guys are on top of this. That's pretty cool. But no, I mean, we can certainly help with, giving them a lot of the reports about the software they have on the systems and the systems themselves, because sometimes the systems end up in a closet somewhere and they're like, oh, wait a minute, I forgot we had this one.
Well, and your server needs to be cleaned up, and they don't want to screw that one up, so they can count on you to help with that and those kind of things. So there's a lot of things that can be done, but it's the big process. You can narrow it way down. We're not saying clean up everything. It's not like a full, end-to-end house cleaning. You're picking a specific area, but you generally want to pick the most used or the areas where you think you're not using them at all anymore, one of the others. If I'm going to repurpose something, definitely want to clean it out, or I use it all the time and it hadn't been cleaned in a long time, like the fridge. When you open that door and you go, ooh, man, look at this desktop covered in icons. Woo! It's like, think of it as opening a fridge and getting hit with the smell. So pick those areas that you want to clean up. And when you do, then you can follow this process depending on what it is that you're going to, clean up. Personally, I like to do a regular cleaning on my own personal computer, or all of them, because we don't just have one.
Yeah. Well, the difference between you and I and so probably most of the people is we don't necessarily clean the computer. We just kind of like nuke and pave it. It's like we just wipe everything out and start over, just reinstall Windows and everything.
I hate doing that more than anything. It stresses me out. But I will go through and periodically do these processes, and that's why we're sharing them today.
All right. Let's get into it.
So clean up your apps. Go through the installed programs. And every one of us, and particularly tech people, will say, hey, that looks like a cool app. We'll load it. We'll screw around with it for a little bit, and then we never touch it again.
Mm-hmm. And that goes for your smartphone or excuse me, what do you call it now? Your computer that makes phone calls. Yeah, because I just recently got a new phone like last week. And, it was like, sign in with your Google account. I did. And it was like, okay, downloading 167 apps. And I'm like, what? I've got that many apps on this thing.
Maybe I should clean it up.
I did.
I know. I've been trying to make a point of deleting 1 or 2 apps a day.
Yeah. We should do like the government. Every app you put on, you have to take 2 apps off.
Oh, geez. So the point, though, is that there's sometimes apps that you're like, I forgot I had that. And now you can start using it because you bought it for a reason, and then you forget about it because nobody's looking. It happens.
Yeah. Or you don't even know what it's for.
So any of those kind of things. And if you are in the unfortunate scenario where you went and grabbed a computer off the shelf, it comes with what we call bloatware.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, you remember used to everything came with Encarta. Yeah,
I do.
the Microsoft
Netscape Navigator.
encyclopedia you had the CD and you had the encyclopedia is right here. Now we have even more information than that on the web. So it's all of those little random apps that are on there that you never use. And in Windows, it shows you when you last used them.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go through, and the ones that don't need to be there, those are just sitting there, potential security flaws in them. You don't know if they have them. You don't know if they don't. You don't know if they're up to date. And they're just sitting there waiting to be exploited.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about the laws of cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm.
Everything has a weakness, and if there's a weakness, it will be exploited. So why even give yourself that potential for that to be one of your weaknesses? So just get rid of them.
Yeah.
And then what?
It might be a good idea before you start this process to do a full backup of your computer.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
So when you remove that program, it's like,
kind of needed that one.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, that's another reason that you should talk to your IT vendors and say, hey, I'm about to do this one. Are you prepared for me to make a mistake? Because even then, if you go through it and you say, hey, Security First IT, I went through my list of apps. I don't use any of these. Can you just delete if they're not needed, will you delete them or tell me it's okay to delete them? But get that advice if you don't know. You and I, we always know, and we know we can fix it if we hose it. We nuke and pave. But, which to those of you who don't mean, we just format everything and start over from a clean computer. That's what nerds mean when they say nuke and pave, which, geek speak, we already know what that is. It's cray. All right. But you make sure the ones that you do want to use have all the latest updates. So get rid of the ones you don't want to use or that you used to use and now you don't need them anymore. Take the ones you do and make sure they're up to date. That is step number one. And often that's a huge improvement in your security.
Right.
But then you take it a bonus round and make sure that anything that you're utilizing where you have passwords on them, are the passwords, have they been changed recently? Or do you have two-factor authentication? Or even run for bonus, your password managers, most of them have these security challenges in them. And unfortunately for us, because we have passwords for our client stuff in it, we can never get that to 100. Between, never mind. But anyway, it is helpful because it'll tell you exactly where you should consider doing things.
Yeah. It just change the passwords.
Yeah.
Like the batteries in your alarm.
Oh, the smoke detector. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to change the batteries, whether it needs it or not. They always say change the batteries. Same thing with passwords. Just change them.
Just go ahead and do it. Yeah, in case you're worried about it, David, I did change our Twitter passwords when that came out.
Yeah. Did you see the LinkedIn one? Did I show you that one? Somebody can steal the
2FA, yeah.
Yeah, they steal the cookie session. Ooh,
yeah,
crazy.
It's pretty tricky, but yeah. So check your antivirus and firewall messages and system logs for odd occurrences. That's something you can get IT's help with. Also get help with the BIOS and driver updates for the system components.
Yeah, that can be scary.
Yeah, but at the same time, if they're well behind, it can be creating security problems, performance problems, all those kind of things as well.
Especially with all these flaws in CPUs that's been coming out lately.
Yeah, so you want to make sure that, and generally you do need technical folks to work with you on that. I know that a lot of the vendors, Dell and those such, they've been doing, making an effort to make that less time consuming and less technical so that it'll tell you have these things and it'll evaluate them and you can say, yeah, go ahead and install whatever you think I need. and it is often helpful, but know that, you're actually messing around with the functioning pieces of the computer, but it is important to keep those up to date as well. And confirm your encryption. If you think you're encrypted, make sure that you are. And if you aren't encrypted, make sure you evaluate it. Because all of that process that you just go through there, you document that, and now that goes into your risk management to show how hard you're working at it. Yes, OCR, when you ask me, look at what I did.
Attaboy.
Yeah, pat on the head. Thank you very much. So that's your apps and the overall health of the computer itself, but the data.
Mm-hmm.
People don't understand how many places data goes.
It's everywhere.
I know. If you go look at the downloads folder, the number of people that leaves that just cluttered full of stuff and they don't realize,
Mm-hmm.
and the my documents or whatever you're used to calling it. And the Windows temp. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So explain the Windows temp folder.
Well, that's, kind of a place where Windows decides to dump temporary files that it needs for just a number of things. If you're installing stuff or opening programs so there's always files it dumps in there. If you open a Word document, it creates a temporary file as you're working in it. So those things are everywhere.
So that it's in the Windows directory folder or whatever you reference it as, and it's actually called temp. But that thing fills up or gets too full, and it, unless you tell it to clean itself up automatically, then it becomes very, very cluttered, and it can actually impact the performance of Windows.
Mm-hmm.
I remember back in the day, whenever all of a sudden my desktop version of QuickBooks wouldn't run reports anymore, it meant that my Windows temp folder was too full. I don't know why. But I knew that if I went and cleaned that up, I could do it. And you also need to know that there's folders called app data and all these other buried folders that have remnants of data in them, which means it could be remnants of PHI.
Yeah, and those are hidden folders as well, so they're a little harder to find.
Yeah, so all the people who think, I don't have any PHI, guaranteed, it's really a rare case that if you are interacting with PHI, even on the web, in the cloud, that you can't go and find somewhere buried in Windows that it's there. And on virtual machines, it's a little different, but it's still there. It's just in the virtual machine. So,
well, it's like, I'm sure people have had programs where they remove the program, like uninstall it, and then they put it back, and all the settings and stuff are still there. Well, that's because a lot of that data never went away.
There you go. That's a perfect example. You don't lose the data, you just lose the app. And then check up on the users. The number of times that you don't know people have sat down at an office computer, they didn't know a login, so they just created a local login. And they couldn't do much, but they could get to the internet, and that's what they were interested in.
Right.
And that means all of their digital debris is there. There's a whole nother user configured. It has its own little desktop folder. It has all of its downloads, app data, all of those things. If that user doesn't need to be there, it needs to go.
Absolutely.
And then Wi-Fi connections. This goes especially on mobile devices. Your laptops, your tablets, and your computers that make phone calls. I don't know if people have ever really paid attention. There's nothing that gives me the heebie-jeebies more than to sit down at a Road Warrior's laptop and open up and see how many remembered Wi-Fi connections it has.
Yeah.
And the downside is that all you need is to go into another place that has that configured, and you'll automatically connect. Yes, that's all you got to say about that.
No, I've seen it happen. I don't do that, but I've seen it happen.
Yeah, it's the hotels. By the time you go through jump through all the hoops to log into the hotels now, where you got to, open a web page and get the confirmation there and enter stuff there. you forget that you're also adding that Wi-Fi connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Offices that you don't go to anymore, same thing.
Yeah, you'll see that, especially, like you said, is more probably prevalent on people's phones because they're, jumping all over the place. And your phone tells you, you're driving down the road and my phone goes, hey, Wi-Fi signal.
I know. I had to turn that off. That freaks me out too much. I was afraid I'd be connecting to things. So it's like, no, don't even ask me. I don't want to. If you're in a hurry and you click yes, and here you are in the devil's den. You don't even know where you're connected. So cleaning all of that up, that's very, very important so that you don't have these random ones. Even if you move your computers around within your organization and, one office, this computer was in one office and it has that configuration and that Wi-Fi and all of that. When you move it to the other office, wipe that out, because you don't want that to easily go back to the other site unless, that's part of your plan. And if people just pick it up and move it, if you want that to be part of the way that you do things, that's one thing. But if you want it to be planned, don't leave that stuff hanging there. Remove that connectivity feature so that it can't easily move around.
And when it comes to Wi-Fi, it's kind of the same thing that we're talking about passwords. Go in and change your Wi-Fi passwords as well. Change the guest password. It's not going to hurt people to start using a new Wi-Fi password in your office because there's probably somebody that has figured out, your password because somebody told them, and then they're coming in your building every day using up your, your internet and possibly even have access to your files if you don't have everything configured properly.
Yeah. At least once a year, change that. Spring's a good time, spring cleaning. So make sure you do that. And then once you've cleaned up apps and data and all of those kind of things on an individual computer, especially the older ones, your basic desktop computers with the old hard drives and those things in it, make sure you empty the recycle bin. and because then it's just still sitting there.
So I know people that use a recycle bin as like a backup. It's like a last ditch. Let me just make sure I don't need it. I'll just leave it here.
Well, let's don't do that. So you empty the recycle bin when you're done, and that will actually free up the disk space because you haven't really done it until you clean out your trash. Just like when you clean out the closet, if you leave the big trash bag laying there, you haven't cleaned it out. You just moved it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then on the older drives, you want to run defrag. And particularly if it's a device that's, it's been around the office, it's kind of, when it was cutting edge, it was in the administrator office. And then the administrator got a new one, so it moved down to the supervisors. And then they got a new, so it kept going, and now this one sits over in the corner, and it's only used for X, Y, and Z, but it is maintained and secure. Go ahead and defrag it just so that it cleans up the drive itself, and it will improve the performance almost guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
What that means is it stores data all over the place, and then it has to keep up with that. So when you want it to go get something, it might have to get pieces of it all over the drive. So it's just running around. Think of it having it in tons of little filing cabinets, and it's just running around everywhere, grabbing it all and bringing it back to you. Well, if you run those defrags, it goes and gets all of that and puts it all in one place and says, now if you want it, I go to one place and I give it to you, which is way better. So you can imagine the inefficiency of your warehouse of data when you make a request and they got to go to 10 rows, 3 or 4 levels high on each one of the rows, grabbing different stuff and bringing it to the front to give you the one piece of information you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
See, you can explain nerdy stuff to people.
It's wearing me out just explaining it.
I know, just that vision of running around.
I know.
That's like those undercover boss where they work in those warehouses and they're like, how do people do this?
I know.
You're the boss that set these incredible turnaround times to improve efficiency. They run with that little scanner and they got to find things and know where everything's at. It's fun to watch. Good stuff.
All right.
Mobile devices, you do basically the same thing that we just talked about. Go through your apps, clean up your data. Pretty much, there's only two things that eat up mobile devices, as far as I'm concerned. And you can, agree, disagree, whatever with me. Photos, text messages.
Yeah, we're starting to see a lot more videos since people are using their phones for, a video studio.
Yeah, really. But yeah, that photos, media, stuff that you've recorded or photos that you've taken, those are the top. And text messaging. When you see people and they have text messages going back years, years, I mean, literally years, they have no idea how much data that's taking, how much processing power that's taking. Every time you go to open the message, it's trying to deal with that giant table.
Mm-hmm.
Phone's going. or you get that delay. It's because it's standing in the corner huffing and puffing. Give me a minute. Just give me a minute. I'll get there. And that's what those things are doing. It's just eating your phones up and eating your battery up. And there ain't no sense in that.
Yeah. One thing to be careful of too, and it's same way with PCs and I guess Macs as well, but mobile devices, there's I think a bigger problem with people, at least on Androids, downloading a program that cleans up their device and then it not being a program they really need to have on their machine.
Right. Yeah, don't do this with those. The ones that pop up and say, clean your computer in no time. Yes, there are some cases where those are helpful, but...
Or was My Clean PC? Oh, my God. Dude, these advertisements on the TV, they're... drive me nuts.
Yes.
Do not use those type of people. They are scams. I don't care if they can't afford a commercial on TV. It's a scam.
Yeah, a lot of them are. There's maybe one or two that aren't, but as a standard approach, no. Because what it's doing is it's adding another layer of complexity and potentially opening you up to security issues. So certainly on devices that need, the level of security that we do with HIPAA, one should not do that.
Correct.
So app and data proliferation. It is an ongoing battle. So when it comes to servers, you do want to get your IT help.
Please.
So what kinds of things do you want to ask your IT provider to look at on your server just for your spring cleaning?
Well, user list would be definitely on top of the list.
Yeah, you always talk about learning 6 months later somebody left.
Yep. Well, it's a lot of stuff, but there's times when you're going through there and you're like, who are these users? And nobody seems to know, or it's somebody that, no longer works there, or, nobody bothered to send in a note to us that they were gone. Or they even hired somebody new and decided, hey, we'll just share the username and password from, Susie over there. We don't have time to create a user for them right now.
Or at one time, this person needed special privileges to do one project. So we jacked up their privileges and they've had them ever since.
Mm-hmm. Or, the copier guy or the ISP, guy comes in and needs access. There's not a week goes by I don't have a client who's like, I need admin access to install something. And I'm like, no.
You don't know what you're doing to yourself.
No, you will not get admin access. I understand there's your computers, but let me do it. Let me handle it for you.
Yes. But you can check the apps and the digital debris that is on servers, particularly file servers. All you're doing with a file server is just extending your reach of your individual desktop. Go through and clean them up. That doesn't necessarily require IT. That's the same process as cleaning it up on your individual machines.
Right.
But yes.
And another thing too, that, kind of going back to the PCs and drives and stuff is, making sure that if they do have the old PCs they're getting rid of, please don't just take them to Goodwill or wherever else and donate them. They have to be, either remove the hard drive out, which is my preference, remove the hard drive and then destroy it. But don't just take them. And unfortunately, I've had people say that. I took the computer and donated it. I'm like, what?
Yeah. I took it to the recycling center. I did, I gave it to, so-and-so to use for their kids. No. You must have a proper disposal policy and procedure for all media and paper. And then every computer that makes phone calls even, is a device that needs to be managed and disposed of properly. Thank you.
Then going back to the servers and also the cloud services, because, people have OneDrive and Google Drive and all these other things. And so this all kind of plays into the same kind of cleanup process, making sure you get rid of that, as you call it, digital debris. But, cleaning up apps off of servers, there again, be super, super careful. I would probably have IT to do that. And even IT is probably nervous about doing it.
Yeah.
Because you never know when it's that one program. It says it hasn't been opened in 4 years, but what it doesn't say is another program actually uses that.
Yeah. So there is some analysis that you may have to do in there. But the important thing, particularly with the cloud services, is, that's going to be on your software list, or it should. And are you actually using it? That's another thing. Are you paying for something that no one's actually using anymore? Can I pull the data off of it and put it somewhere else and close that account? Because again, that's just, giving you another area that you could suffer a data breach, or, at least have data that somehow could get out that you don't need to even have there. So get rid of it. Yeah.
And I think IT people are bad about this. They'll have an Amazon S3 bucket and a Google Cloud Drive and a Google Drive and a OneDrive and they're all over the place because we're constantly testing things and trying things out and seeing what technology is doing and all that. So we just end up having stuff all over the place.
But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't clean them up and change passwords on them from time to time either, just like anybody else.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, but you look at this data. I mean, yes, there are certain things that you need to keep. And we are digital pack rats. We know that. All of us are.
So let's address the elephant in the room. Your email inbox. Oh my gosh.
I hate it. I hate it. It overwhelms me. Just for mine, it overwhelms me. And when I see people that, have 5 times as much as I do, it's like my brain just turns off. I don't know how to function. I don't know how to process that. How can you live that way?
Yeah, that's, the great thing about, we use the Gmail platform, but the thing I love about that is we can then use other tools to tie into that, it marks the emails. If we have emails come in and we can label them as, to be deleted and they just automatically delete. So it kind of purges itself automatically. And I think Outlook has some similar type functionality, but man, if I had to go through and manually clean that stuff up all the time, which I do from time to time, I spent actually yesterday going through and I deleted 600 emails that were unread. And that's just from the past few weeks.
Well, I have that system too, where, based on what kind of email it is, it's not like I want to unsubscribe. If I have time to read it, I want to read it. I want to look at it. So what I do is I have it so that I don't know how many days you have on yours, but it's like
7 days.
Yeah, somewhere between a week and 2 weeks, somewhere right in there. That when it comes in, if it's on this list, it gets marked with delete me. And if it's not read in that amount of time, it gets deleted. It's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And, the beauty of that is that I don't ever have to worry about it. But the flip side of that is there's still hundreds of them coming at me every day that aren't marked as delete me.
Yeah.
That's the hard part.
It is. I mean, I think there's not a day goes by I'm not unsubscribing to something and I still get more stuff. It's like there's somebody out there subscribing me to everything.
Have you tried the Astro app?
I want to think I have, maybe.
It's kind of interesting. But
there's some of them out there. You have to be careful with some of them because one of them I tried one time. It was enroll.me.
Yeah, it reads everything.
Yeah, but then I found out that they were selling my data all over the place. So that was a bad idea.
Yeah, so people love that unroll.me because supposedly it's going through and removing you from all these lists. Turns out that was not so good. It does it's free and there's a reason they give it to you for free.
Yeah. Yeah, but there's
Astro is in the testing process, so they want people to use it for free. It's going to eventually be a paid service, but it'll actually say, "Hey, you haven't read these. Do you want to get rid of them?" And it helps me find the ones to get rid of. So, but it's paying attention to what you've opened. It'll say, so-and-so interacts with you a lot. Do you want to make them a BIP so that you get notified when you get an email from them? Or do you want to unsubscribe from this list? And many of them, it can unsubscribe automatically. So it's kind of handy. I'm still kind of playing around with it. And of course, none of these tools can be used on an account that has PHI in it, period. The minute you elect to do encrypted email with PHI in it, you now are very, very limited to what you can do with it. Yeah. So our little scripts that we run, you could do, but you can't do these services.
Yep. Actually, it voids the business associate agreement in a lot of cases.
Yeah. It just depends on what you're doing. So keep in mind, we purposely don't do that. And the services that we do use, we're evaluating what it's doing with it just to get an understanding of it. But, we also want to know how these things work. Going back to that's what tech people do. They're always wanting to test it and see how it works. And that's why you also have to evaluate things before you load them.
So what about the good old EHR programs?
Yeah, I got this question in one of my recent presentations where they said, we have these old EHRs and this old data in them, and the vendors say we can't purge them. And we don't need this data. Well, that's a big problem, and the vendors are going to have to figure out a way to do it. They also have data that they do need to keep that they don't need. I don't need access to it, and I may never need access to it, but legally I have to keep it. Children's records, deceased records, those kind of things. There's special requirements on a lot of records on how long you keep them. There's a standard of, 7 years, 10 years on most things, but on other things, it's much longer, 50 years and crazy things like that. What you want is the ability to offload that data and put it in a secure backup somewhere. Know that you must always have the ability to access it and be able to reference it when needed. And it can become massive amounts of data, but my new quest is to look for some of the startups that are hopefully doing something with this so that they can work with the vendors to build these archives, because that's what we need. And you want to ask your vendors about what can I do to archive stuff so that I can offload it and put it. Now, granted, it needs to be encrypted or, and backed up and secured in many ways. But there's a million places that I can do this now. And, a terabyte of data holds a bunch of PDFs. So if I just simply dump all of the records to a PDF, and then save them to a hard drive where I can index them, it's a whole new ballgame. And, I know back in the day, I've done some programming like that where it creates the PDF and the name of the file is the name of the patient, and it's a complete list of their activity. And then you dump it out to a folder and it has an index and you can sort them however you want to do. But until you nag your vendors to give you some sort of functionality like that, you could individually print them and make sure that you're offloading them and then deactivate them somehow. But as the attack surface continues to grow and it grows outside what we're required to have, there needs to be pressure on them to give you the way to compress or purge or archive and take them out of the main working database.
Mm-hmm.
So give them a hard time.
Yeah, good luck with that.
I know, really. But you think about it, that's just more data that can be breached or, encrypted in a ransomware attack.
Yeah. All right. So, as usual, you give me a lot of work to do.
You're welcome.
I don't know if I feel cleaner or dirtier. Oh, boy. So, well, I have my work cut out for me. I know I have nothing else to do, so I'll have to get that done this weekend.
Get on it, brother.
Yeah, right. All right, folks, that is our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, thehippabootcamp.com. Get over there, sign up, be prepared for a great time. Remember to follow us and share us out on your favorite social media site. You can rate us on our podcasting app and all over the other places we are. And send your questions in. We have some good ones coming in lately. We just haven't shared them on air yet. But you can send those to contact@helpmewithhippa.com. And we might even feature one on the air. For sure, Donna will definitely respond to it. So remember, for Donna and myself, that HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhippa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.